Okay, we'll start in a while. So the discussion would be around the KYC, particularly. Perhaps it should be, um, let's say, know your customer. However, what has happened right now is over the years, in respect of anything and everything, most of the data set, particularly in terms of input data, the um, so say for example, you have these columns and rows, and in the columns and the rows itself, you can write serial number as S period N dot small letter O. At the same point of time, you can write the whole number. So it's a whole number, can be in caps lock, or it can be, in small letters. You can have a particular set of language in terms of whether it's Arial, whether it's Times Roman, um, Georgia, and whatnot. So a lot of data sets can be created. But when we talk about knowing your customer, and particularly from the standpoint view of um, the internet economy, for perhaps that internet economy is going into deep dark understanding, because the data set itself is a wrong data set. When I say a wrong data set, we already know that when we talk about a data, particularly let's take the address and the land. Land is basically people who own the land on the land. It's not the societies and the LIGs, MIGs, and the HIGs. I'm talking about in the context of Delhi. I'm not getting into other places. I can, but I don't want to, because Delhi perhaps is the capital and a lot has been done over the years. So when we talk about knowing your customer, a lot of things become very important. Um, what is the data set of the property documentation? Because under the RERA Act, though the Act or the BEAR Act is perhaps to regulate the misregulated sector, because um, generally in villages, which is also called as province in China, the documentation is not documented very well. And once the documentation is not documented, anything and everything to do around it is never going to enhance the documentation process. And particularly, this can be brought onto the blockchain. So when we talk about bringing this economy into the blockchain or onto the blockchain, in terms of this has to be public ledger. Particularly the properties, one should be able to see the exact property details. For that, this should be free. This initiative is not only the the state government needs to take cognizance. There are different departments, and different departments need to collate the resources, and particularly with whatever is available, they should be developing it. Now, the basic infra here is, there's no rocket science developing these web domains and everything. The basic infrastructure is ready. It's just that take the license, deploy the stuff, and one more thing is, like, we have these DigiLocker stuff. However, most of the times the DigiLocker itself is not working, because perhaps there is some kind of disagreements in the server settings, in terms of if somebody's server, which is already a big empire in the internet economy, that server setting is not the setting of the CDN in India, then this CDN is not working with other CDN, and then we are not able to build the KYC. So the real pain point right now, particularly this is in due to the discussion which we were having earlier, is understanding the philosophy of the knowledge process outsourcing, which has been done to India over the years, and we have to go back to the 90s. So maybe the internet economy or the AI stuff is in 2050, 2060, in whatever way. According to that, then India is a developed country. Um, Perhaps on the timeline, we are still in 2025, and somewhere there has been failure in the upgradation of the human capacity building. Although, you cannot be telling people to just select, A, B, C, D. It has to be rigorous answers, so that you really know what these guys or these individuals or these candidates are thinking. If I go back to the understanding of how numericals were used to be solved for these entrance exam way back in the 90s, 80s, and the 70s, it was extensive. So you actually had to put your brain or the understanding as to how you get from the input to the output, because one equation can be solved by zillion methods, and particularly with the assistance of this small language models, a lot can be developed. So I'll just um, go through some of the IPCs for the understanding, and if you have any questions, happy to answer. Uh, Maybe you can just send me the DMs and we can look into that data set also. So I'm putting myself on mute. If you have any questions, you can put your questions in the, I say it's a chat box, but it's kind of a chat bot only. Okay, I'll walk you through the classification in this case, which is supposed to be G naught 6Q 50 slash 265. This is particularly related to personal security, identity, and safety. Safety is paramount right now, and particularly in the landscape of India, we are seeing and witnessing so many accidents happening at any given point of time, and those things are happening at the point where people are purchasing these cars, and particularly this brand. I'll just write it down. This four-letter word, Thar. So the other day, what happened was under the customs, even without putting their brain into practice, the person who was riding the or who was supposed to drive at the driver's seat had a lemon, I don't know, some lemon, and she wanted to squeeze the lemon. Instead of squeezing the lemon, the Thar just burst out on out of the first floor at the point of where the vehicle had to be delivered. So what is happening right now, because of this so much chaos and everything, and particularly from the standpoint of transportation, um, companies are not taking cognizance of the vehicles which they are just launching without even getting into a thorough market research as to the impact which it will have on the society. So one needs to look into these data sets. Particularly, another one which is very important is G06Q 20 slash 4016, which is basically transaction verification involving fraud or risk level assessment in transaction processing. Then user authentication is a very important thing. I'll give you one sample data set whereby the mobile device, or particularly the handheld device, was with another person, and because only the OTPs were being provided, the person could manipulate the banking sector for that regard. And that is why biometric becomes very important. Biometric, face recognition, these are very important to authenticate the user. Perhaps because right now AI is safe in many aspects, but AI has, obviously, any technology will come with its own SWOT analysis. And to understand the SWOT analysis is always important to make the weakness as a strength. I'm always in favor of making the weakness as a strength, because fail so fast, the failure doesn't seem like a failure. That is what we are targeting right now. Then we have G06Q 20 slash 40145 biometric identification checks. Particularly look into this hashtag CAP. So this is one of the protocols by ITU, that is International Telecommunication Union, which is looking into the aspects of the data which can be saved. Because let me tell you, all these companies which are, see, human capacity building can be done in multiple ways. But one way which I don't uh, echo with is um, creating these hallucinated data sets stating that this happened somewhere, and how you're going to resolve it. No, that should not be the case. Perhaps what is important is to take the human cognitive level ability to the next level, so that at least they're able to do their daily course. Because right now most of the folks are technology deficient because of so many reasons of their professional commitment, personal commitment, emotional commitment, and whatnot. So this is there. Okay, we were getting the regulation part. I will just so I have an application with me right now. I'll just look into it and give it a tweak in terms of what can be done. Okay, let's take it as a project, which is a discussion about how the KYC can be deployed or can be utilized in the best possible manner. Um, so basically, you have these candidates here, and um, where they have two different teachers, and take teachers as entities, and they are trying to grade the same candidate. However, the acumen of the teacher itself is a little different. The candidate has one big folder full of homework slips, like trade instances, like perhaps kind of a KYC where it can be your Aadhaar card, passport number, social security numbers, and whatnot. Um, So it's basically a do and don't kind of a questionnaire where the word it starts with does the candidate have a valid license? Does the address is matching in terms of whether the passport address is matching with the other identity address? See, a very important data set here is if one person or an individual or a candidate it is having multiple linguistic stuff in terms of whatever they have in terms of the documentation, and if the address is different on the different documentation itself, that data set in terms of the historical data set has to be seen. Like, I'll give you one example. In my case, since the birth, the address is same on all the documentation, so it hasn't changed over the years. Next. So here there is no marking, because when you start marking people like A1, A2, D1, D2. Okay, in our school time, at least in the convent school, there is a marking of A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, C2, D1, D2. E is always failed, right? Um, However, now the new KYC system, in particularly this particular case, it's stating that we will just have pass or fail. So either you're scoring 100 out of 100, or you're scoring 80 out of 100, or 50 out of 100. Still, you are pass or fail. So it makes very simple. And pass is again a four-letter word. Fail is a four-letter word. So we will concentrate on four aspects. So we have the word pass, PASS. Then we have the word fail. Um, okay, we have the word fail. So we have pass, fail, and then if I have to give two more words, so the grading is fast. So if you use this for perhaps for a personal model, then the compounding or the computing is very fast. And since the computing is fast, you don't need uh, big um, processors or GPUs at the first place itself. So with very simple tweaks, you can get the same result. It's just that how you are, uh, even color coding itself, red has so many hues. All these colors have so many hues. But at the same point of time, if you make it simple, it is simple and classic. So basically, pass and fail, if I have to give a tagline, it would be simple and classic. Now, this is nothing to do with trademarking. Please don't pick these instances and put it into the trademarking or the branding aspect of filing trademarks, because it has lost value after what we have discussed is 1st of April 2020. um, Accordingly, make your amendments. That way at least you will have some kind of understanding of the disparity which is occurring right now. So if I have to give a five-letter word, I'll give the word trade. So let's see trade of a candidate. Of a candidate.
And which one का है? So this was the budget entry from a model.
So we are done with this. If you have anything, just send me the DMs. I'll look into it, and perhaps also look into this. I'm not very convinced with this BNB understanding. We need to work a little bit more on the D&D understanding, and then let's see how it works. Thank you for watching this out. Have a great, I would say now it's almost weekend. So have a great weekend ahead.